What's up, Metal World? Jay Nanda, San Antonio Metal Music Examiner with Access.com, coming to you from the 8th Annual Rockstar Energy Drink Mayhem Festival. All you need to know about that is Slayer! Here at San Antonio Alamo City Music Hall as the tour is winding up in Texas this weekend. And I shouldn't even have to give an intro to you for these guys, but you should know Slayer drummer Paul Bostaph, guitarist Gary Holt. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Now, I'm not gonna. We know how talented you are and how awesome you guys are, but Tom and Carrie are original members, so I'm not gonna get carried away and say you guys are the better half of Slayer necessarily. But there's got to be something. What can we call you guys? Are you the Exodus half? Are you?
Call me late for dinner.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Repentless is coming out, Slayer's new album, on September 11th, and wow, I just got 6 songs yesterday. Talk about giving yourself a crash course and trying to prepare for this interview, listening to the material. And I'm going to get to that in a second, but let's get this out of the way. Obviously, Mayhem has been in the news a lot lately, sometimes for the wrong reasons, as far as supposed low attendance, supposed, backlash with different bad publicity. I got to tell you right now, all you folks out there, if you saw what's out there right now with King Diamond on stage right now, and it's been this way most of the day, there is a packed house out there right now at Alamo City Music Hall. But I would love to get your guys' opinion on the entire, from a band perspective, on the entire tour. How has the road been going? What have you been thinking about the things that have been said back and forth, the barbs? Lay it on me. Gary, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, it's like things were said in the media that were spun wrong and attributed to Carrie quoting me, which I didn't say, and Carrie says he never said it. Criticizing the Victory Records stage, and some of my closest young compadres are on that stage. Shattered Sun, Texas natives, and they know it. These guys, I do everything I can to help them. Ask Daniel, he comes to me when he wants information and advice on endorsements, and I'm totally willing to give it. The attendance has been down, and the only thing I ever actually did say was what this tour is lacking is a genuine second stage. There's usually a record label sponsored stage, a second and a third, and a main stage. And what you have is a main stage, and then this time it's a Victory Record stage.
Sure.
Last time I did Mayhem, it was the Sumerian Record stage. And those bands, they're all young up and comers, and they're awesome, and hung out and barbecued amongst other cannabis related things. And then for Bad Blood to be started because one guy decided to throw the tour under the bus early into it, it's we're all out here. Those guys all the way up to Slayer out here working our hardest to put on the best show we can. And those guys, they're young, they're out here, like every young band, you're working for nothing. You're working to further your band's cause and to spread your name. And and then I can understand people all the way up to us start feeling like, what are we doing? It's like, are we not appreciated? And and I know I can speak for Paul. We appreciate these younger bands.
Yeah,
I mean, hell, my other band, we're still a club band, all right? I'm more likely to go out on tour with Exodus and these younger bands on that Victory Record stage than anybody else, And if you ask any young band that's ever toured with Exodus, we treat them not like an opening band. We kidnap them, put them on the bus, make them drink vile shit, and take care of them. And but other than that, and a couple of shows which have been pretty grim, the tour's been great, and I'm having hella fun. That being said, I'm glad it's almost winding down, because I'm 51 fucking years old.
All right, Paul, let me get your take on the matter. Well said, Gary. Well said. And Shattered Sun, by the way, was opening with Exodus.
Yes,
Testament here in
That's
April at the
met.
Aztec Theater. Shattered Sun's one of those bands. So
that's where we met.
Yeah.
I mean,
love those guys.
just so I say something, I agree with Gary 100%. I couldn't put it any better. Everybody's out here giving 100%. It seems like we're all out here throwing each other under the bus, but we're not. I mean, really, we're all in this together. Like Gary said, all the younger bands are just out there doing what they do. They're kicking ass. And all the way up to everybody on the main stage.
Yeah.
So it's a true metal tour. Whatever the perception is in the press, isn't really what it's like out here.
Well, Repentless is coming out September 11th, as I said. Kind of a milestone for you, Gary, your first Slayer contribution album.
Yeah.
I got 6 killer songs yesterday that are going to hit you guys very heavy and hard. Just my first impression, the song You Against You.
That's one of my favorites.
Absolutely 3 separate parts of just pure monster riffage. while Paul's thrashing the entire time. Any story behind that one?
Kerry worked really hard on this record. I mean, he worked and he had a record done and he was still writing on days off, taking a guitar into the hotel and continuing to work. He never stopped working until the album was done, And he worked Paul to death. My job was easy. I just went in and went, I just went in and shredded, and it was super fun. And I had a good time. I was only there one day.
Yeah. and Paul, any thoughts as far as the songs or the recording process for you?
Oh, I mean, starting with You Were Against You, that's probably one of the first songs I worked on with Carrie. The intro of the song, for me, like when I heard it, I'm like, it was really punky. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's this different? And it really kind of, that song actually set the tone for the way I approached the entire record.
Right.
But it, there's, Vices, Cast the First Stone, there's a song from Jeff on their Piano Wire.
Take Control.
Take Control.
Yeah.
Repentless, the opening track of the album.
Yeah.
When the Stillness Comes, we're playing those two songs live along with Implode, but When the Stillness Comes is a fun song to play live. I mean,
it's different.
Yeah, it's it's slow. It's when you're a drummer and you're playing fast all the time, it's nice to play something with like some
sets the mood,
Yeah. When you can get a drink of water while you're playing a drum fill, it's kind of good.
Especially in this band. Well, something I found very interesting as well about Repentless is it's coming out September 11th. It is not the first Slayer album to be released on that date. Of course, the 9/11 that we all know was the release date of God Hates Us All, the last album in Slayer that Paul played on. Obviously, there were other albums released that day, not just metal, other genres. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Slayer's was the only one, though, that had a song that day that dealt with terrorism, Disciple, in the lyrics. Paul, can you give me just a little story, a backstory of what that day was like for you when the record was released, as far as traveling, and I don't know if you guys were on tour at the time, just how hectic was that for you in the day of infamy?
Well, we did, that day we were actually that night, the morning of the release of that record, we did a signing in Corona, California. We did a few signings that day. We did an album release, like signing, meet and greet kind of thing at Tower Records or something like that. So we were there till like 4 in the morning. Then we we all went home and went to sleep. We were supposed to leave for Europe at 5 p.m. to go on the Tattooed Planet tour in Europe. So I remember getting some rest and just pretty much just getting how my bags were packed. I was ready to go. And like everybody else, you woke up to surrealism. It didn't hit. I don't know if it hit any of us. Have anything to do with what the album was called or anything like that until we got over to Europe. And then people would come to the show and they're like, do you realize, that all these coincidences happened? And we were like, no, it didn't really hit any of us. I think it was just, to us, like everybody else, I think it was just that the event of that day had nothing to do with our album being released.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's purely coincidence. It's one hell of a coincidence. But, it was pretty heavy the whole time. I think the farther we got down the line in that tour, the more connected that God Hates Us All, the album title and the song Disciple got tied to those days' events, only because of the fact it came out the same day. So it's pretty, it's very interesting. That's the most I can say for it.
What does both of your guys' history in Exodus? Obviously, when you were in Slayer, I would assume that you didn't need a whole lot of refreshing as far as chemistry-wise between the two of you on stage. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Can you just talk about, just how everything came together for you guys? Was it more of a case of, hey, just meshing with Carrie and Tom, or did you guys have to kind of restart your own little chemistry as far as recording process and live on stage, or was it like riding a bike and say, hey, I played with this guy before, I know we're all in tune here?
Look, not because he's sitting here. I worked out the songs with Gary. Gary shows up and he nails it. So, and I've played with Gary. Gary, I'm used to his energy. I know what that's about. So, like I said this before, it wasn't like when I came back. I was only in Exodus for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's it's a real short time in the history of that band. But it was like it wasn't. It was Carrie and Tom. And, it wasn't like some new guy I had to get used to. I already knew Gary.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a show that took place 5 years ago that involved both of you in Austin at Stubbs. It was the Megadeth Rust in Peace tour with Testament and Exodus.
Yeah. It's like this big 6 degrees.
Yeah, well,
separation.
I wanted to ask you about that show. I shot that show at Stubbs in Austin, and there was a time, you probably did this frequently on tour at the time, but there was a moment at the end of Exodus' set where you brought a little boy on stage.
Yeah, we always snatch
Yeah.
some little kid up and throw a guitar on
throw
him.
a guitar on him, and I got a picture of that because there's a little backstory here. At that particular show, that's
right.
I'm sure that flying V looks familiar to you.
Yeah, that's Lee's. That's Lee holding it right
Lee's,
there,
yeah, and that's the picture. But anyways, I just wanted to tell you this boy is named Nick Rios, and as soon as I shot this picture, his father befriended me and said, hey, give me your card so I can get a copy of the picture. That, like I said, this was 5 years ago in San Antonio. Ever since then, we've become friends, and I see them in almost every show, front row center. And that includes tonight. So you might not recognize Nick because now he's 5'8", 235 pounds.
Yeah, probably looks a little
but
bit
he's
different.
hanging out, and just wanted to let you know about that.
Right on.
So, tell me what you guys have with Slayer once. Like we said, Mayhem wraps up today in San Antonio, tomorrow in Houston, Sunday in Dallas. I would imagine a full-blown tour for the new record. What's going on next?
Well, we got Motorboat coming up in September. You know, I do double duty on that one with Slayer and Exodus.
Yeah.
That's right, that's a vacation. And Japan right after that, and then Europe later October, I believe, and that's going to be a good long one. And then, you know, we'll see where the following year takes us. You know, I'm sure we're going to be busy all year long, so, you know, and I'm down, I'm ready to go.
Gary, can you give us a quick update on Metal Allegiance? You take part in the All-Star Band.
Yeah, Mark
that's coming
Mendy
out.
talks me into it every time.
bunch of killer
swear it
musicians.
off every time. No, you know, it's one of those things where I dread doing it and then I show up and I have fun. And we're doing it again in New York City.
But there's an album coming out with you playing a couple songs.
Yeah, I just do some bunch of leads on it and stuff. But, you know, it's fun, you know. Like I said, you know, I always like, God, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm always on the road anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, then we show up and it's fun, you know, because you get to play with a bunch of guys you normally otherwise wouldn't. And a bunch of musicians you admire and respect, and as well as very old friends, you know, so it's a lot of fun. We have a good time.
I do have a quick question from one of my social media readers, Chuck from San Antonio. Wanted to ask you, how do you like pulling double duty? I know you've been doing it for years.
You have to ask me when I'm actually doing it, you know. Right now I'd tell you I'd do it tonight. You know, if you ask me halfway through a 4 or 5 week tour of doing it like last year, I'd tell you beating the shit out of me, you know. But, you know, it keeps both bands working and kills 2 birds with 1 stone, you know, which I'm more than willing to do, you know, because otherwise I'd never be home. I'd be on tour, you know, 12 months out of the year.
Right.
If I was just going from one band to the next tour to the next. The more often I can like nail down both jobs at once, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, you haven't lived, in my opinion, unless you've been on a boat with a bunch of metal bands, and the first 70,000 tons of metal cruise was one of the best times of my life, especially
Bay Area was
especially when you're drinking vodka and Tabasco sauce
Oh yeah.
with the likes of Exodus and Marco Segeda from Death Angel.
Oh, yeah.
Great memories there
Buck
in the
Burners,
back.
yep.
And that was over my Big 4-0. I know it was mostly Lee that introduced the concoction of vodka and Tabasco sauce.
Hey, have you blackmailed any presidents with those things? I wonder.
Not yet, but you never know when that's going to come
The Tabasco
up.
just
So-
kills any alcohol taste in
yeah.
it, basically.
It's worth a try, though.
Nullifies it completely.
So thanks for that. Gonna let these guys go. They go on stage in about an hour. Check them out in Houston
Thank you.
and Dallas. And of course, Repentless coming out September 11th for Slayer! Thank you, Paul Bostaph. Gary Holt, thank you very
Thank you.
much, guys. Have a killer show.
Right.
Thanks for taking the time. For Gary and Paul, this is Jay Nanda, San Antonio Metal Music Examiner with Access.com, telling you don't hang them out to dry. Hold them up high.